Greetings, Office of Transition Programs. I'm Professor O. I hope you are doing well and having a great week. This is my presentation for EDL 556, Technology in Higher Education. In this presentation, I will be discussing my technology consultation project for the Office of Transition Programs by giving an update on my research and provide recommendations on how to integrate the new technology within the operations for transition programs. The agenda for this presentation will go as follows. I will first give an overview of both the project's mission and goals set for the Office of Transition Programs. I will then give a brief overview and definition of what is a QR code and its origin. Next, I will show the uses of QR codes throughout higher education. I will then follow by doing a step-by-step process of how to create a QR code. Then I will show how the QR code can be integrated within the student orientation process. And then lastly, we'll give recommendations of the next steps that transition programs can use in order to implement the QR code for student orientation. So the mission for the consultation project is to provide a report on the utilization of technology in the Office of Transition Programs at the University of North Carolina, Wilmington. The report will focus on providing information and make recommendations for new technology that could be implemented with the programming for the Office of Transition Programs. There were 3 goals to this project. 1, to understand QR codes and their connection to higher education. 2, to research institutions that utilize QR codes in their orientation process. And 3, to present the findings of QR codes and make recommendations on implementing QR codes during the orientation process. To start off in my research, what is a QR code? A QR code or a quick response code is a 2-dimensional barcode that can be used on devices such as a mobile device or laptop computer, which once accessed will allow an individual to see a website or be able to text a number from a contact list. Within the area of higher education, QR codes have been implemented throughout colleges and universities campuses. Two of the main areas that QR code has been used has been one in the libraries, in which QR codes have been used in order to access websites for storing information and references, to in the case of UNCW, using it to make room reservations, and as well as access online books and data, digital data. And within the classroom, QR codes have been used by professors and professional staff to access assignments and activities for their students, and as well as put there to access forms such as surveys in order for their students to complete. In order to create a QR code, it was very simple, and so I will give a step-by-step process of how it works. So the first thing when in creating a QR code, you must have a QR code generator website. Most websites, there are thousands of websites that are out there for QR codes, and most of them are free. However, if you want to, for bigger products, and I will be making this recommendation for transition programs in terms of orientation, for bigger products, you may want to use their services to upgrade your service to paying a monthly fee. Some websites range from $13 to $150 a month, depending upon how big is the project is and how well are you going to manage it. 2 websites that stuck out for in terms of using QR codes was QR dash code dash generator.com and QR code dot Kaywa, which is KAYWA.com. These were 2 very good sites in the midst of me searching, and that were pretty good in terms of making proper QR codes. After you get to the general, you get a QR code website, you will be able to import your information. Your information can come in the form of a PDF file, can come in the form of actually putting the information down into the text, or having information be transported into into a contact list. This is very in terms of important information, you can basically do whatever you want in the sense, in order for you to get the proper information that you need. For orientation programs, this is in terms of check-in, you will probably need the person's name, student ID, email, and the an address that they're coming from, and then that way you can be able to access their information in terms for or giving them their information for registration and group number and orientation name. Once you have imported your information, you can download the QR code. In this case, you can download the QR code via your computer, or you can actually print out the QR code. At this stage, you can also, before downloading your QR code, you can also, most websites are giving you the option to customize your QR code, whether you want a logo or something to specify that particular individual's person, so that way you can be able to make sure that that's the proper information in terms with the QR code. You can switch it out and rotate it in many ways you want it in order to make it look presentable for the actual person. And again, you can also, after you download it, you can also print it out and have other information up there as well. After you download the QR code, you can also scan the QR code. You can scan the QR code to access information. So for that will require for you to download an extra QR code reader. If you're using iPhone, I would recommend you use the QR code reader for iPhone. That seems to be the best option for a to read a QR code for via iPhone. For Android users, you use just a regular the barcode scanner, and that way it could be able to access this information. What you see on your right is a QR code that I created from one of the QR code generator websites, and it's basically giving a person's information, their name, date, their name, address, and I believe I put in the student ID number, so that way you can just show an example of how to access it. So if you would, when you get time, just download the QR code reader up there and be able to focus up there the screen. And on this next slide, it just shows actually information that I put up there, and it gives the name, ID number, their address, and their email, and on the preview. And this is from qr-code-generator.com. In order for you to integrate this for QR codes, you can be the main overall objective for this was to implement an efficient way to check in students for orientation sessions and provide students with all necessary information throughout that particular orientation session. So once they be able to, you give them their QR code, the proper ways for them to, or I guess you say the fantasy way is for them to bring their QR code in, show them the QR code, let them show you their QR code. You scan the QR code and check them in. And anytime also, if you can also use that QR code for other things, or create another QR code in terms of accessing schedules for orientation. Knowing that we use the guidebook now, the guidebook app, we can be able to create their own QR code for the guidebook, and then be able to give them that QR code so they can be able to have access to guidebook. The recommendations excuse me, the recommendations that I will make for the QR code, for implementing for the QR code for the Office of Transition Programs, is to first collaborate with UNCW TAC, which is Technology Assistance Centers, to develop QR codes for using during student orientation sessions. The reason why I would be recommending this only because, granted that you can do the QR codes, in yourself. However, with a project with orientation being a bit production and having 6 orientation sessions with over 300 to 400 students in each session, and as well as having transfer orientation sessions that's also with 300 to 400 students there, you have to be able to make sure that it's managed properly. So having or gaining that partnership or building that relationship with tech in order to help develop a proper QR code that can be scannable and used would not harm you, and it'll actually be a great to your advantage. You will also, this next recommendation, next step I would say is to gain approval from the Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs of using QR code for orientation. Now, this would be very good and very understanding because that just allows the Vice Chancellor to be in the loop in terms of knowing what technology is being utilized within her division, and also making sure that when someone asks them about it, they know all the information that's lead to it, and just making sure proper hierarchy of things. 3 is to communicate with students and parents of downloading the QR reader for users during orientation. And this is basically if you are using the QR code reader for downloading guidebook or assets. But in any case, you will have to use the just making sure that they know that they need to have their QR code with them once they come to orientation, either through an email or either through a mail copy of their QR code. And then lastly, and of course, is to train professional staff and orientation leaders on proper uses of QR codes. This is very important to make sure that those who are working check in that all orientation leaders and professional staff know how to use the QR code, what the QR code will be pertaining in terms of information, as well as knowing the guides and the steps to use the QR code, as well as the scanner, what device is going to be used for the scanner for the QR code. Basically, upon my research, I saw that a lot of universities, in terms of using the QR code for their orientation process, they basically used it to access information of their schedules or contact information for their offices. I was trying to find a actual institution they actually utilize it for their check-in process, but it's not really none out there, or it requires further research on my part to make sure to see if there are any other institutions that are using the QR codes actually exclusively for a student orientation process. And some of those institutions that are using it for check-in, for check-in, not for check-in, but for the guidebook or orientation schedules are Jacksonville University, University of Illinois, Tuskegee University, University of Cincinnati, Colorado State University, and Northeastern University, and they're using it for orientation access to their schedules. Again, thank you so much for listening to my presentation, and I hope this information will be helpful and will be able to start the foundation of going into using a QR code for the Office of Transition Programs in terms of orientation. If you would like to have any more information, my contact information is, if you will scan my QR code, it provides my contact information. And if you have any other questions, please let me know. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you all have a great and wonderful day.